welcome everybody to the Multifamily and More Expert Series, where we dive deep into a specific topic with our expert guest in the area of real estate, mindset, or anywhere in between. This is a special 5-part series we're doing on underwriting expenses with our guest, who I'll introduce here in a moment. Check out the playlist above here for all of the different expense classes that we'll talk about across the different episodes. My guest, Steve Lyman, is the principal and owner of Superior Management Systems, a third-party property management company, and is also an investor and syndicator himself. Steve, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I guess it's welcome back, depending on when we do.
Yeah, welcome back, depending on when you watch these.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about management and payroll, near and dear to your heart as the owner of a property management company. What are some of the things that you, when you're underwriting a property, that's the whole goal of this series, when underwriting a property for management, let me take a step back. Tell me the difference between management and payroll.
So, I mean, a lot of people have, it depends on the company that you talk to, right? So when you talk to a property management company, they have a property management fee that might be completely inclusive of payroll and marketing and all that kind of stuff. You also have companies that a la carte everything, right? So they have a management fee, they have a fee for every computer that they have on site, they have a fee for payroll, they have an upcharge on all your maintenance requests, so you need to understand first where the management company that you're speaking to is coming from. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the nice things with Superior, a little plug here,
please,
is that we have a flat management fee that we charge, and then we have a payroll charge depending on the property. Depending on the property, which we can get into in a minute, the staffing that's required for that property. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the nice things as an owner, and what I always liked prior to getting into property management, is the third-party company that I used had their flat management fee, so they didn't upcharge me in any invoice, any contract service, anything like that. And then they also took the liability of the employee. So any employee that was employed at my property would be an employee of that third-party management company. So I didn't have to pay any of the liability or workers' comp insurance. I didn't really have to worry about them. My property just reimbursed the third-party management company for that payroll, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. So you're not responsible for the direct cost. You're whatever their proportion is to your property, the management company's proportion to your property of that expense, they get charged back. So if workers' comp you mentioned, if it's a 10 unit, you don't need a full-time employee for that out of the management company, but whatever time, say it's 10 hours a week, a quarter of an employee that the management company provides for that building, a quarter of that employee's workers' comp fee would be charged back to the owner in that case, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Beautiful. All right. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I think we might go a little deeper on this one, but so that's management. Payroll is, as you said, like the cost of the employees on staff, whatever employee the management company has on staff for that
property management, right? Leasing agent, maintenance person. Yep.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's talk about underwriting these things real quick.
Sure.
And I want to get back into Superior and some other stuff that you do, but underwriting these. So how do you underwrite management? Let's start with that.
So, well, because I own a management company, I can obviously be a lot more flexible if I need to tighten up an expense here and there to buy a deal with some investors. But I would say you could range like a management fee anywhere from, your cheapest might be $250 a door, and your most expensive might be $600 a door, depending on how inclusive and what buckets are falling into that management expense line item for you.
So let's go with this. So $250 a door, would you say? Well, let's do it this way. $600 a door. Is that when you're thinking it's not just a fee, but there's a monthly a lease up fee, a lease renewal fee, all of that stuff? That's where you get closer to the 600.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the price of property management varies, like I said, based off of what their philosophy is in charging, an operator. So, the more expensive, say $600 a door for sake of argument, is going to be more inclusive. It might include payroll. So, I think you just need to work with your management company to know what that number is.
Got it. I want to ask you about questions that you might ask a management company, especially with your experience here in a few moments.
Sure.
But let's talk about that. So I want to vet some property management companies. Where do I start? Where do I find them first? And then
Yep.
I guess, what questions would I ask? What are some key questions to ask to understand, am I in the $250 or $600 a door range on this?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Google is a great place to start. Property management companies, you can go to our website is another good place to go.
Yeah.
But talking to brokers usually have, if you're working with a broker on a deal, brokers usually have pretty good insight to what companies are good, who are bad, because there's obviously really bad ones out there, and there's a lot of great ones out there too. So kind of using your network, multifamily and more, going on Facebook and asking who people use is a great way to do it as well.
I love that. So, all right. So I call you, I'm vetting a third party management company. How do I, like, I could ask your fee and you could tell me what, 6, 8, 10%, whatever it is.
Yep.
But how do I know what that means from an underwriting perspective? How do I know if that 10% is inclusive, not inclusive? What are some questions?
Well, I mean, you're going to want to dig in on that with them. What does that include? They're, like I said before, with Superior, we have a flat fee, and that covers everything. So we don't upcharge you for a lease renewal fee or 10% on an invoice from a contractor. It's just one of the things that you find when you have a conversation with them is this is what's included and this is what's not. Some companies will add, hey, they might be more expensive, but hey, we'll add a marketing aspect to the business. So we'll create a website for you and all that kind of stuff. So it's just having a conversation with them and understanding what exactly is included in their cost.
Are there any red flags in your experience that people should be aware of when vetting a management company? Something that they I don't know, maybe there's not. It's kind of a left field question here, but is there any red flags if you were to call and vet a management company that you should be mindful of or explore more if a management company said, this is what we do, or these are some terms that we have, or anything like that?
Well, I think you want to understand what their background is or what it has been in the business. Yeah, because, some people, and not saying that someone who's new to the business can't be a great manager, but they just might not have the same experience as someone who's done it for 20 years. Someone who's seen and knocked on doors for money or, that has that experience in doing so. Excuse me. So, I have always been of the philosophy, I'm never going to buy the cheapest product because it's the cheapest for a reason, I'd rather pay more for a good quality manager than one who is new and is the least expensive.
That makes sense. And it's funny you say about that experience thing. It could even be an experienced property manager, but in the wrong asset class, right? Like you have a this is my opinion, not Steve's, but you have a single family manager, somebody who has a portfolio of single family properties that they manage on behalf of an owner or owners. That's a very different thing, in my opinion, from managing a multifamily property where your neighbors are literally above, beyond, behind, left, and right of you. Mm-hmm. There's different nuanced dynamics to each of those asset classes, right? So if you're talking to a single family manager, they may be great. I'm not saying that they're not good, but just be aware that your asset, if you're buying a 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 unit property, it's a different animal to manage. It's a different beast. And without that experience, I would at least be mindful of that going into the transaction with somebody who hasn't done multifamily management before. So fair?
Fair.
All right. Very good. Let's talk about payroll now. So how do you underwrite payroll? At what rate? Is it a per door charge, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a general rule that you can say, I would say for every 50 doors that you have, you could have one full-time leasing agent and one full-time maintenance man.
Okay.
So that's a general rule that I use. We don't really know what we're underwriting payroll to until we get into the property and we're doing due diligence, because you don't know, your maintenance guy might have a lot of maintenance to handle at that property. Maybe the property's old. Maybe it might need a lot of work as far as plumbing or, whatever the case. So it's hard to determine exactly what payroll should be when you're underwriting a deal and you're looking at it on paper without going through the property first.
Is there a standard kind of range? I don't know if it's a per door or per 50 doors that you see once you've got a property under management, you brought it in, that you're typically paying in payroll that an owner would have an idea on? Is there a standard, not a standard, but like an average range that you see or not?
Yeah, I would say $200 to $400 a door.
For a door?
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody's just sort of doing a quick underwriting on something, that's maybe a rule of thumb, if you will, not exact.
Yeah.
But
not exact, because obviously, like I said, every property is different. But yeah, that's a good rule of thumb.
Okay. And from a payroll perspective, to be clear on this for folks out there that are kind of trying to sort all this stuff out, you have your management fee. Let's just call it 8% for whatever reason. It could be higher or lower, but 8% management fee. You vet this manager and they say, yeah, hey, I don't charge lease-up fees. I don't charge this. I don't charge that. Cool. From a payroll perspective, they're obviously going to manage and handle that payroll. Who the employee is reporting to, if you will, or who the employee is between you and the manager. Some managers, it'll be their employee allocated to your property. Some managers, it's your employee, depending on the size of your building. Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay. But when payroll is charged, does a manager charge a fee on that payroll typically, or no? Is there a certain amount that they should be expected? Like, hey, if my payroll is X, there's a fee on top of that the manager charges, or not really?
I mean, I can only speak for our company, and
Yeah.
no, it's simply a pass-through expense. So if your maintenance guy made $441 this past week, your property will get charged $441. That'll pay back to Superior Management Systems for that.
Gotcha. So I think to your point, that's a question to ask a manager. Is there any fee on the payroll? Because you call it a pass-through charge. I have heard other companies that charge a percentage of whatever the payroll is. So if they bill out, like you said, a $500 bill, they get 10%. So $550 is the charge to the owner. Management companies $5, their fee for doing that is an extra $50. So when you hear like 3% management fee, that sounds great, but there could be a lot of other fees in there that add up to a much larger percentage, I think is the gist of that, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So I can give you a good example. I don't know exact numbers because this was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, but my partner and I were first looking for a third-party management company. We talked to a few of them, and one of them had the same mindset as Superior does now, and that's kind of where we got it. Was charge a fee that is all-encompassing and pass through their payroll, right? So it just makes it clean, easy. You know what you're getting charged. And then the other company that we talked to, it was so complicated. Like we had to sit down for an hour to try to figure out what the total cost was going to be. So they had like a 3.5% management fee, and then they had fees for leasing computers, and they had fees for payroll, and they had upcharges on invoices. It became like a 10+% for management, and we're like, this is kind of ridiculous. So
the fact that paper cuts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. So that's good. I think that's a really good way to kind of go through that. So we talked about where to find management companies. We talked about payroll. Is there any, I don't know, common mistakes that you've maybe made in underwriting payroll, underwriting management in the past, or that you've seen made by others?
It's a pretty straightforward line item. I wouldn't say that it's extremely complicated. You'll want to figure out who you're going to use for management, and then you can pretty much plug in what the cost is going to be.
Yep. Of course, that dog's barking in the background now, but Superior Management Systems, they're a Michigan-based company. You do third party, you manage your own stuff, but you do third party as well, correct? And I believe that, like, as a team, you two, which you have 1,000 units together that you're managing, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And this is across multifamily only, or do you do single family, that sort of stuff?
Multifamily only.
Great. So, I mean, if you're in Michigan, which many of you are that are watching this, I would absolutely, we use them. I'll admit, we are a superior.
I was gonna see if you were gonna plug that or not.
Absolutely, we are a Superior Management System customer, and very happy with them. So definitely check that out. Make sure they're a company that you're looking up for your third party needs. If you're buying a property or if you own one now, I've appreciated, like you said, because I had the same conversations with management companies. Either multifamily wasn't their focus and that concerned me. Or,
Mm-hmm.
wow, great fee, but like management fee, 3.5%, but holy crap, the other stuff that's involved in like you said, I needed a slide rule and an abacus to kind of figure out.
Right.
Right. It's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
what's my total cost? And when you do add it all up, like, yeah, it was like, well, if everything goes perfectly, it's this much, which was still kind of high, but God, if
Mm-hmm.
anything happens, you're talking 15% of your
Right.
income every month going just
It
to
can become a
manage,
lot.
let
Right.
alone payroll and whatever you have to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely have to be mindful of that. And I would absolutely recommend Superior Management Systems in your search for a property management company. Steve, where can people learn more about you, about Superior? What website do you have? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to go to our website. It's www.superiormgmtsys.com.
Beautiful. On there, you can get his Facebook and LinkedIn profiles as well and contact them through there. The website link is right below you on the screen on the YouTube video. And yeah, check them out. Steve, much appreciated. Great insight.
Jamie,
Great insight
appreciate
on
the
management
time.
and payroll.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Talk to you soon.